Crochet's YouTube channel. My name is Melanie and this is my first pattern, the Peak Cozy Cardigan. I'm very excited, so thank you for joining me today. We'll be walking you through the steps for the trinity stitch and the double crochet rows, as well as the rounds for the sleeves, how to do the single crochet back loop only cuff, as well as the ribbing for both the neckline and the bottom. So join me and let's get started. Okay, so to begin, we're going to chain an odd number plus 3 additional chains. So I've done 17, and I'll do 3 additional chains. This will be the width of your panel. So you'll want to go into the 4th stitch with a double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 again. So we are going to count the turning chain. So you'll have 18 double crochet for this row. Okay, so I finished my 17 double crochets, and that's 18 including that turning chain. Now we'll start our trinity stitch row. So once you're finished with your double crochets, you will chain 1 and turn. And you'll start your trinity stitch row in this very first stitch. So we are going to insert our hook into that first stitch and yarn over. I'm going to pull up a loop, keep that loop on the chain while we insert into the next 2, doing the same thing. So now we'll have 4 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. So it sort of looks very similar to the star stitch, the beginning of that. And then with that same on the chain, you're going to pull through and chain 1. So that is a trinity stitch. Pretty simple, but it really makes a really nice texture on the other side. So this will be always the wrong side when you're doing the trinity stitch. The right side will be a little more textured. So to do the second stitch, you're going to start from that chain 1. You're going to insert into the last stitch that you pulled up a loop from the previous trinity stitch. So you'll insert your hook and pull up a loop and do that 2 more times. Yarn over, pull through all 4, and then chain 1. So there's 2. Next you'll insert, pull up a loop, there's more, yarn over, pull through. So we'll finish this row. Now you have 2 of your full double crochets and your turning chain left. You're going to do the same thing, insert into your last double crochet will be the last part of the stitch here. And this last of the rows will always be, you will skip, so I normally would add the chain 1 here, you will skip that chain 1 and you're going to single crochet into the top of the turning chain. So skip that chain 1, and instead we'll go into the top of the turning chain with a single crochet. So just insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. So that completes trinity stitch row. Now, like I said, that's the wrong side. You can see that the other side has a bit more texture to it, a little more of a bump, which is really beautiful. So now to continue, I'm going to chain 2. I like to chain 2 with my double crochets. Some people chain 3. I know we started with chain 3. It gives the bottom a little bit more slack to stretch out, but I've chained 2 up the sides of my pattern because I think it gives a little less of a space. There's not as much of a gap going up. So we'll chain 2, we'll turn. Now you'll be on the right side of the work again. We're going to double crochet across this whole row. So I'll show you where to do that within the trinity stitch. You're going to yarn over. You're going to insert into this first space, so the chain 1 space, this single crochet space of the last row. So the first stitch will be in that single crochet space. Next, you yarn over and we're going to double crochet into this, it's like the side of the trinity stitch. So you'll see that there's 2, top of the chain there. You'll yarn over and you pull through. Next, you'll go into the chain 1 space of the trinity stitch. So you basically be going into the chain 1 space and the side of the trinity stitch across. So that will give you, including the turning chain, 18 again. So we'll stick in, sort of be cognizant. I sometimes don't think of it too often, but when you chain 1, if you're a really tight chainer, you'll probably want to go a little bit looser with that chain 1 on those trinity stitch rows, because you see you have to get your hook into them. In this pattern, you're also going to go into the chain space at the end of this row. So the last double crochet of the row will be in this turning chain here. So it's sort of the short little turning chain from the previous. So that gives you the next row. So you'll just continue these the same pattern, whatever width you made. So this is just a tutorial. So however many you'll go across, you'll do exactly the same as long as you want for the back panel and the front panels. So next I'm going to show you how to seam the sides and the top of the panels together so you get the body of your cardigan. So you want the 2 textured sides, the right sides of your work, to be facing in, so you have the wrong sides facing out to seam. Now we're going to seam along the whole top edge here, either with your tails from these, or you can use a separate piece of yarn. I'm going to use a bright pink so that you can see what I'm doing, but you'll definitely want to use the same color yarn so that it is invisible. So pick up your tapestry needle, thread your yarn, and we're going to connect the 2 pieces together through both top loops of either side of the work. So seam through the entire top and entire top. I'm going to tie off. If you are going to weave in, you don't have to necessarily do that, but I like to do that. So next, we are going to work from the inside out on each side of the work. So you're going to start by sticking the needle through both top loops. Some people just do the back loop for these stitches, but I think that gives it a little bit of a ridge, and I don't really care for that. So I've done both top loops and I think it looks nice. You can decide to do it differently if you choose. So both top loops from the inside out, working along the row, inside to the out. So you see you sort of have a shoelace look. Now I'll show you every inch or so you're going to want to pull. I find it a little easier to pull every inch or so. You can do it longer if you want. And you see there's no visible pink except for my tie here. No visible pink really except for my tie. So especially when you're using your same purple, you wouldn't even be able to see that. And so you see how the edge looks as well. If you had just done the back loop, you'd see each of these and it would give almost a ridge on both edges, whereas this, it looks more seamless to me. I'm going to continue threading from the inside out. And just making sure that I'm getting each of those stitches. So just continue like this along both tops of your sleeves, and then I'll meet you back to do the sides. So now to seam up the side panels, you're going to leave your armhole at the top, so marking that with a stitch marker is a great idea. And you want to make sure that you're keeping these lines together, so you can see that there's a basic, pattern here that you want to make sure flows around the sides of the sweater as well. So I've tied off my yarn, and we're going to go into 2 bumps on each side from the inside out. So try to keep them aligned and check that your ridges are staying together. So I'm going to start from this side, grabbing 2 from the inside out, grabbing 2 from the inside out, grabbing 2 inside out. So just keep going along, and you can at a certain point stop and check that you are staying together. So I've got my lines together, looks like, so I'll tighten this section. If you pull too tight, you might pull that off a little bit, so you want to only pull as tightly as you really need to pull that together. But you see how you're keeping that line straight. And with the same purple yarn, you won't even see those marks. Pull tight. So if I pull too tight there, I might move across that extra space. So keep going up the sides of your panels, keeping those aligned. Stitch markers help here too to keep you aligned if you need some extra help. But it gives you a pretty invisible edge. Next, we're going to start on the sleeves. So the sleeves are worked in the round on this project, and we'll begin with a row of single crochet, and then we'll move into the 2 same stitches, so the double crochet and the trinity stitch. And I will show you how to do the transitions for each row as well, and then we'll move into the cuff. So So let's get started. So once you have finished seaming the top and the sides of your cardigan, we're going to do one single crochet round to start the sleeves. So you're going to insert your hook into the base of the armpit and draw up a loop with some new yarn. And then we're going to start by making 2 single crochets in each double crochet round and 1 single crochet in each trinity stitch round. So you're going to end up with an even number of single crochets, and then we will slip stitch to join, and that will be an odd number. So I have 53 that I need to do, 52 single crochets and 1 slip stitch. So I've pulled up a loop, and my first row that I'm hitting here is a double crochet. So I'm going to do 2 single crochets in this spot. And I'll do 1 single crochet in the trinity stitch row, 2 in the double crochet row, 1 in the trinity stitch, 2 in the double crochet. This just gives a nice, even, easier transition for you when you start the sleeves rounds. So I finished my round of single crochet, and now I'm just going to slip stitch into the first single crochet that we made. So I pulled up a loop, and we're going to slip stitch into that very first stitch. So this will give me 53, because when we turn, we're going to go right back into that slip stitch, and that will be the start of our next round. So turn your work so that it's facing, your inside of your sleeve is facing you. So we're going to always work the trinity stitch this way, so the wrong side, just like we've done with the rest of the pattern, so that that texture is on the outside of the sleeve. So I've pulled up a loop for my slip stitch. Now you're going to start your trinity stitch row in that same slip stitch. So right at the base of that loop, I'm going to pull up a loop, next single crochet, and the next single crochet to start my trinity stitch. Yarn over, pull through just like you have in the past. Yarn over and chain 1 to finish the trinity stitch. Starting in that same that we brought up the last loop, 1, bring up another loop, and a 3rd loop. Yarn over, pull through, chain 1. So you're just going to continue this way around the single crochet row. And that's why I like to do that row of single crochet. Just gives a good base for stitching into. So you can see how you have the nice texture on the outside and the flatter side on the inside. So continue around the round, and I'll meet you back at the beginning. Okay, so I've reached the end of my trinity stitch round, and I have 2 single crochets left, and then we're back at that slip stitch turning chain. We are going to start the trinity stitch the same way, so pull up a loop in those last spots, yarn over, and going to slip stitch into the top of that turning chain. So to end, instead of single crochet, we're going to just slip stitch into the top of the turning chain to join that nicely. Now we're going to chain 2 to move to our double crochet round, and we're going to then work on the right side of the work. So flip your sweater, and we're going to have the outside facing out. So see how beautiful that trinity stitch is? It's really textured. So I've got my chain 2. We're going to yarn over, and we're going to make our first double crochet into that same slip stitch space from the last row, and your turning chain will count as well. So double crochet, then you're going to go into the side of the trinity stitch just like you have with another double crochet, and then into the chain one of the trinity stitch just like you have. So you're just going to continue around this round same way you've worked the trinity stitch and the double crochet rows. Really the only difference is our joining method. So finish that and I will meet you back to join this row. Okay, so I'm almost done with my DC round. I have one more stitch. You're going to make your last double crochet into the same stitch that your first chain two is coming up. So you make that last double crochet there, and then you will slip stitch into the top of that turning chain. So now I have 53, including this two turning chain, and that's the same amount that I did for my single crochet round as well. This pattern is written with the sleeves staying completely straight down the arm, so I didn't add any decreases to the actual pattern. You can make a modification, certainly if your upper arm is much larger, or you wanted a larger armhole, and you don't want that to continue down, you'd rather taper it. You'd want to do 2 double crochets together. You want to do at least 2 sets of those per round, depending on where you want to start that decrease. I suggest tracking that because you'll have to redo it on the other side and you want it to match. So track which round you decreased and how many times, or use stitch markers even to make that more clear for you. But to continue, we've slip stitched into that turning chain. You're going to chain 1, and then you're going to face the inner sleeve towards you, and you're going to start your trinity stitch back in that first chain there. So 1, 2, 3, and you're just going to continue following those double crochets same way you've done the rest of the pattern. For your trinity stitch row. So you'll continue like this for as many rows as you want. I suggest trying it on, seeing how long. If you want the sleeve to be 3/4, you can stop there, or down to your wrist. The cuff will add about 1.5 inches, so keep that in mind when you're stopping. I've done 40 rows on my other sleeve, so I'm going to next show you how to start the cuff. All right, so I have finished the amount of rounds I'd like to make for my sleeve. I've done 39 rounds, and I've ended on the trinity stitch round. Now for the last round, whatever that is for you, instead of making a double crochet, we're going to do the single crochet, and that just kind of gives it a smaller feel to move down to the cuff. So same way you've done with the rest of the pattern and the other rounds, we are going to just chain 1 for the single crochet. That's all you need, and you're going to start in that same first stitch inside of the trinity stitch, and chain 1 of the trinity stitch, and in the side. So I'll just finish this round the same way. We're going to slip stitch into the first stitch. So continue that, and then we'll start the cuff. So from here, we're going to chain however many you want for the ribbing. So I'm going to do 7. So I've chained out 7 regular chains, and for ribbing, you want to start with we're going to do single crochet back loop only, but the first row we'll always just do regular single crochet. So you're going to skip the first chain and single crochet into the second chain and down to the base. So I'll have 6. Basically, it'll be that my ribbing will be 6 single crochets long. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, once you reach the base, this is why I also like to use a single crochet base because it makes it a little easier to see what you're doing when you go across this edge. So for any ribbing, if you're making it while it's on the garment versus just making a ribbing and attaching it, you're going to slip stitch up this edge basically to move to the next row. So you won't go back into those slip stitches, but you're just going to, basically it allows you to move up almost like a turning chain. So we have this last single crochet on our hook still. You're going to slip stitch into the next single crochet on the base. And that just anchors it to the base. Now to move, you can do 3 like we're going to do, and on other ribbing you can do just 2, and that keeps it more flat, so it won't scrunch as much. But we want the cuff to taper, so we're going to do 3 slip stitches. So we've done 1, we're just going to do 1 in the next, and 1 in the next. So 3 slip stitches along that base of your project. Now you're going to turn your work, and you want your yarn will kind of always float to the inside. You always want that yarn to be on the outside. So once you've turned your work, now you're looking at the back of the first part of the ribbing that you've done, and you're out at this slip stitch. We're going to skip over those, and we're just going to go back up the 6 that we have here. So you're going to grab just the back loop of your single crochet. So just the back loop of that single crochet, not the slip stitch. Going to yarn over, and you're just going to make a single crochet. Next, grab the back loop, yarn over, single crochet. So that's the, single crochet, back loop only. Yarn over, go through. So I've done 5 of those back loop only single crochets. Now to end the edge of the ribbing, each time we go up it, we're going to do a single crochet into the entire stitch rather than doing just the back loop only. That gives the edge a little more, a little sturdier feel, not as much of a rib in the middle there, and I think it looks nice. Then we're going to chain 1, just like we would normally turn for our project, and we're going to have turn back. Chain 1. So in this first, we're just going to single crochet. So when you go up the pattern, you're going to single crochet. When you go back down the pattern, you're just going to single crochet in that first stitch. Now we'll go back to the back loop only. So pull up the back loop, yarn over, insert, single crochet. Back loop only, yarn over and pull through. Back loop only, yarn over and pull through. So I've done one single crochet, this is 4, now our 5th one, because of that 3 slip stitch can kind of get hidden, so you want to make sure you don't skip, because you've only done 5 here, don't skip that 5th stitch. So if you need to count and remember that you need to do that one, I would do it. Otherwise, you're going to start to minimize your rib. So we've done 5 single crochets, the back loop only, and 1 single crochet. Now we're going to again anchor that to our base. So you're going to go into the next stitch with a slip stitch. One more time. One more time. So I've done 3 slip stitches on the base for my anchor. Now you're going to turn your work, make sure your yarn is on the outside, and you're going to go back into that first single crochet with the back loop only, and you're going to repeat. So 5 single crochets, just the back loop. Then our finish, we're just going to do our 1 regular single crochet and chain 1. Turn again, regular single crochet, back loop only, 5 times. Remember that one gets a little hidden, just the back loop, and 5. Moving along your base, slip stitch, 1, 2, and 3. So you see how that's crimping a little bit, and it will make a nice pulled in cuff. So you'll continue this way all the way around your sleeve, and it will pull that tighter. You can certainly decide if you want to do more of these. If you don't think it's going to pull tight enough, you can do 4 slip stitch, whatever works best for you. So I have finished my cuff, and I'm back at the beginning here, so I'll show you how to join those. So I've done my row of stitches here, and I'm back at the base, and we will slip stitch just 1 time into that last space there. Then you're going to pull your yarn through, so cut your yarn off with a little tail, pull your yarn through with that slip stitch, pull it tight. So now we're going to use our tapestry needle and weave those 2 ends together. You can use really any technique you want, but I'm going to show you how I'm doing it. So you have the foundation chain, you'll see from that first row, and then your last row of your single crochet back loop only, and you want to kind of keep these ridges showing so that it looks relatively similar. So we're going to go through that back loop facing us and the foundation chain of all of these stitches. pull that tight so the knot is also hidden. I'm going to go back through that foundation and the back loop. Back loop, foundation. And just go through all of those. Now this last one, I'll go through most of that stitch just to give it a better edge. So this doesn't pull apart, you're going to want to go back through these. So I'm going to go back through from that same way and over just to give it a little tighter feel. So you'll want to weave in your ends. I suggest weaving a little bit more through that seam so that you really make sure that doesn't come apart. But you see it's in your seam, so it will be at the base of your arm. But that's how you finish your cuff. So the next step is your bottom ribbing. You'll do the bottom ribbing and the neckline ribbing, and then you'll be done. So we're going to start in the right panel, inner corner, and you're going to attach your yarn to that spot and then chain out the same amount that you did for your cuff and using your smaller hook. So I've chained 7, so that's what my cuff was, and now we're going to just single crochet, same way we started the cuff, into that second stitch and in all the rest of the stitches. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're going to secure it down to the base as we did with the cuffs. So you're going to slip stitch into that next stitch and then just in one more for this. So again, for the bottom ribbing and the neckline ribbing, you'll just do 2 slip stitches into the base, as we don't want it to taper as much as the cuff did, so it'll be straight versus tapered. So I've got my row of single crochets and my 2 slip stitches. We're going to turn and keeping that on the outside again, same as you did for the cuff. We're going to back loop only in the first 5, or the first however many you have. Then you're just going to do a normal single crochet in that last stitch. So I'm going to do 5 single crochet back loop onlys into my ribbing. Again, we skipped over, remember that slip stitch. So that's basically just our turning chain. In these instances, we're skipping over that. So 5, and I'm going to do a normal single crochet through that whole stitch, and then I'll chain 1. I'll turn back to the front, single crochet, then single crochet back loop only for 5. So same thing, we're going to secure that down in the next stitch with a slip stitch and 1 more slip stitch, 2 slip stitches along the edge. So just continue around, same way we did the cuff, just doing 2 slip stitches, and then we will work the neckline. I have finished my bottom ribbing and I've just got 1 row left. So I've chained 1. I'm going to do a single crochet into the first and a single crochet back loop only into the rest of your ribbing. I'm doing 5, 4, and 5. Now to connect that, you're just going to do the 1 slip stitch to end, and then you finished with that bottom ribbing. Next, for the neckline, we're going to start with a row of single crochet up the entire neckline. So you're going to do 2, just the same way we started the sleeves. You're going to do 2 single crochets in each double crochet side and 1 single crochet in the trinity stitch side. So starting from where you left off on the ribbing, I'm starting with 2 double crochets. I'm sorry, 2 single crochets into the double crochet and 1 single crochet into the trinity stitch row. 2 and 1. 2. So you'll continue like this up the entire neckline, and you'll want to count at the end to make sure that you have the same amount on the left panel as you do on the right panel, so that when you start the neckline actual ribbing, you have the same amount of rows for the ribbing. So continue like that, up that, and I'll meet you back at the end. So once we get to the end here, we're going to fasten off because we're going to want to start our neckline ribbing on the opposite side. So a little extra step, but then the right side of the work will continue easily. So we're fastening off here, and the next step we want to do is to mark these 2 inner spots of this neckline with stitch markers. So when you get to the ribbing, if you don't think you need that, that's fine, but it makes it just a little clearer. In the neckline ribbing, I'm going to do all the whole side in just with 2 slip stitches like we did the bottom ribbing, but right at this point we're going to tighten it to a 3rd slip stitch just to turn the work a little bit. I thought that gave it a little smoother transition to the turn. So it pinched it a little bit, so we're going to do that at this point and at this point. So 2 points, but that's it. So you're going to return to a 2 slip stitch all in the middle, and then you're going to return to the 2 slip stitches all the way down to the bottom to finish the ribbing. But like I said, get some stitch markers if you feel that you need to put in that corner, and then we will start the neckline ribbing from this point. So I'll meet you there. Alright, so I have attached my yarn at the bottom left panel's corner, and that's all the way down in the bottom into the ribbing area. So we're going to go all the way up, and I have chained 7, the same amount that I have chained for both the ribbings for the bottom and the cuffs. So do the same amount for yours as well. So I'm going to do the same exact thing we did for the bottom ribbing. So we're going to single crochet into the 2nd chain from the hook, and in the rest of the chains for the ribbing. Then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm at the bottom, and we're going to anchor just like we've done with the rest of the ribbings into that next stitch, and 1 more slip stitch. So just 2 again for this until we get to that top neckline turn. So turn, yeah, getting all tangled. and I have a hair. Skip those slip stitches and just single crochet, back loop only until you reach your last single crochet, and then we're just going to do a normal single crochet into that bottom and chain one and turn back. Same thing, single crochet, then the back loop only until you reach the bottom. There we go. Okay. Again, attach it, anchor here. 1, 2 slip stitches, and then you'll turn again and work up the rows. So just keep doing that. It's going to give a nice neckline ridging, and it looks really, really professional when it's done. So I'll meet you back at the neckline turn to show you how to do that, just to make sure no one gets lost there. So I have completed my neckline ribbing up until I'm about at the top corner here. So when I was mentioning before, we're going to use 3 slip stitches in this turn instead of 2. So I've done my normal ribbing down to the base. I'm going to anchor with 1, 2, 3 in this row only. Turn, do the same thing, slip our 3 slip stitches, and SC back loop only in those 5, and then I have my 6th, and I'm going to do regular single crochet and chain. So now you can see it's kind of giving me a turn. So I am going to continue after this with just 2 slip stitches in each one until I get back to this spot, so this turn, and I'm going to tighten again to 3 slip stitches, and then back down the side we'll go back to 2 slip stitches all the way to the bottom, and then you'll be finished. So I'll meet you there. So now that you've finished your neckline ribbing, you are all done. Just weave in the ends anywhere you left those, and you have your complete cardigan. Thank you for joining me to make the Peak Cozy Cardigan. I hope you enjoyed the pattern. If you did, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much. See you next time.